And do we have... Okay, it should be a CR3. So let's see what happens there. Alright. Starting off with the core base stats here, we have an AC of 12. And it's a medium construct with 10 D8 hit points, a 16 in Constitution, 8 Wisdom, and 5 Charisma, and should be a CR3. Alright, next we'll move into the skills area here, and we only have one saving throw, which is surprising. Usually anything that has a saving throw either has none or two. Very rarely I see at least one, but because it's one, there's going to be no bonus to it, and it's Constitution. But we do have a bunch of damage immunities here. We have Poison, Psychic, Bludgeoning, Piercing, and Slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't adamantine. So we can put that in. And our Golem is getting 2 times the hit points already. Looking back at the skills area, we see that there's nothing left here, and we'll just skip on down into the trait section. Looking at the traits, we have Berserk, which I don't have anything on my trait here for the side, but let's see what the Berserk does. Whenever the Golem starts its turn with 40 hit points or fewer, roll a d6. On a 6, the Golem goes Berserk. On each of its turns while Berserk, the Golem attacks the nearest creature it can see. If no creature is near enough to move to an attack, the Golem attacks an object with preference for an object smaller than itself. Once the Golem goes Berserk, it continues to do so until it is destroyed or regains all its hit points. Okay, so right off the bat, there's going to be no effect to our Sand Golem here. Next, we have Fire Susceptibility. Each time the Golem takes fire damage, it must make a Constitution saving throw with a DC equal to 5 plus the damage taken. Alright, that's why we have the Constitution save, which is funny that they put that in. If the target fails 3 of these saving throws, the sand turns to glass and the Sand Golem becomes petrified. After this, it becomes vulnerable to bludgeoning damage. The Fire Susceptibility is an interesting trait. Generally speaking, combat shouldn't last more than 3, maybe 4 rounds. You may not see this come into play. Alright, well, let's move on to Thunder Susceptibility. Man, this just got all of them, huh? Each time the Golem takes thunder damage, it makes a con save. If it fails the saving throw, sand gets blown off its body and it shrinks by 1 size category. Cool idea, but annoying to keep up with the hit points, because if it shrinks a category size, then it shrinks in hit points as well. So this is actually going to reduce the hit points, provided that every time it gets hit with thunder. Still doesn't necessarily take any initial effects, especially if there's no one casting thunder spells, or has any kind of thunder damage. Water Susceptibility. For every 5 feet the Golem moves in water, or for every gallon of water splashed on it, it takes 1 cold damage. Alright, same to Fire Elementals, so there's no effect there. And Sand Rejuvenation. Let's see here. As long as the Golem is in physical contact with a large quantity of sand, it regains 10 hit points at the start of each of its turns by absorbing sand to its body. Okay, we can use this. This is just rejuvenation or regen, like the trolls. So every turn, in theory, you're going to be using the Sand Golem in a desert setting somewhere. It's going to get an effective plus 30 hit points. So unless this thing is got like nothing for damage, we're already at the expected CR. We need this thing to stay very low in its damage, which isn't good for combat. Speaking of combat and actions, let's come into the action section here and see what we can do with the Golem. So our Golem's multi-attack can make 2 melee attacks. If both attacks hit a creature that is 1 size category smaller than the Golem, or smaller, the creature is grappled, and the Golem uses its smother on it. So then we look at the slam, and the slam is dealing 10 points of bludgeoning damage. And then smother. The Golem smothers a medium or smaller creature grappled by it. The smothered target is restrained, blinded, and unable to breathe. And it must succeed on a DC 13 saving throw at the start of each of the Golem's turns or take 10 bludgeoning damage. If the Golem moves, the smothered target moves with it. Alright, so this is similar to Engulf and Swallow. So we're looking at 10 points of smother damage, but like I said before, this is similar to Engulf and Swallow. So we're actually going to put that damage over here and suggest 1 target so far. Let's put in that so far, and that'll be roughly about 13 DPR for 2 rounds that the creature is smothered. And on top of that, we'll have 1, maybe 2 targets constricted with the effective AC bonus. All right, now we also have Enlarge. As long as the golem is in a physical contact with a large quantity of sand, it can grow. All right, and as though the Enlarge effect of the Enlarge Reduce spell was cast on it. Absorbing sand into its body, it also gains 6 temporary hit points each time it enlarges, but loses these temporary hit points if it still has them with it when it shrinks. Alright, not what I was expecting. I thought it would be enlarged like the Duergar here, which means the creature magically increases its size along with anything it's wearing or carrying, and put the extra damage inflicted per round whilst enlarged. Alright, so technically we will just skip over that since it's not really doing anything. I guess that saves it from the thunder susceptibility. That's that. Let's finish up the multi-attack here and get the damage out of the way. So we're looking at 2 melee attacks, 2 slams. Alright, simple enough. Just this times 2. And then this will be the multi-attack times 3. And each round of combat, if we're expecting the monster to also get both attacks off and then start to smother the target, we're looking roughly at a CR 6, but I haven't put in the attack bonus yet, as I am prone to do. So luckily the CR 6 didn't go anywhere, but we are looking at a very underrated monster because of the excessive amount of damage that it has. I'm kind of curious as to why they envisioned damage immunities. If anything, I would say probably poison and psychic, sure, but it's sand. It's a sand golem. And the way they word it in all of its stat blocks here, this thing is losing sand super easy. I don't understand why they have the damage immunities in here in the first place. So let's see what happens if we remove the immunities, or at least get rid of the bludgeon, piercing, and slashing. So it just has at least poison and psychic immunities. That shifts it down to a CR 4 at least. That's a good start. Is there anything else we could do? Regen? We could reduce the regen a little bit, and let's say 5 instead of 10. And that doesn't really do much of anything either. It's still a CR 4. What if we get rid of it entirely? Alright, we have a CR 3 this way. So if we get rid of the massive amount of immunities and we get rid of regen, now we have a CR 3 Sand Golem.